All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Nice packed house tonight. Always good to see participation from our citizens. Today is Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. This is our second regular council meeting of the month. Welcome to those of you here in person and those joining us online. We are going to start off with the invocation. Councilmember Dunn, would you mind doing that for us? And followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
Father in heaven, we are grateful to come together as a community to listen and speak of the place that we call home. Inspire in us imagination and wisdom to do the right thing. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Do a quick roll call. Should go pretty quick. Councilmember Van Orman. Here. Councilmember Kurtz. Present. Councilmember Ball. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
All right, all are present and accounted for. Do we have any requested amendments to tonight's agenda? All right, not hearing any.
Seeing none, I will make a motion, Mayor, to approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 7-0. All right, that's fast. We're up to citizen comments. Lay out the rules of engagement here for everybody in case you're new. There's a 3-minute time limit per person. It is strictly a comment period. There's no back and forth with the council. If you require follow-up, we have your information here. If you'd like to add phone numbers or whatnot afterwards, you can. So we'll have staff follow up if there is anything to do with that. We just ask that the comments remain respectful. There will be a timer up on the screen. And so just keep an eye out for your 3 minutes because I will stop everybody. It's just fair. So I've kind of shuffled these because I didn't know what order they came in. So I will go ahead and start with Dave Barker. Welcome. And if anybody's online who'd like to make a comment, please send a note to our meeting host in chat. When we're done with in-person comments, we'll acknowledge anything that came in by email, and then we'll go to anybody that is online. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Dave Barker, and I'm one of the many representatives of the Bella Lago Homeowners Association. I know that this is not on your agenda tonight, and I'll just take the 3 minutes and just kind of highlight some of the overriding issues that we have. There's a development that's going to be made up above ours, or at least there's an application for a development. And we have been in contact with Sean Walker, who is the principal of the developer, tried to work out a number of issues, but we've also replied to the SEPA or the application and have outlined our concerns in that application. So I won't kind of belabor those because I know there'll be a public hearing and we'll have an opportunity to voice those at that time. Some of the big overriding issues for our development is the fact that it's one of safety, particularly fire safety, and the ability to vacate our neighborhood in a safe manner. What we have is a development that has about 16 lots on it now, and they're requesting another 21. The state, or not the state, but the Spokane County issued in 2018 a road construction standard that requires that anything over 30 lots or potential residential require a second exit. And so this is going to exceed that. And so we'd like to have Lisa and her people consider the fact that there's a real significant safety issue, particularly when you consider the geography of this hillside property, heavily forested, and the road that leads out, the county road or the city county road right there, is very narrow with sharp angles to it. So as we know, there's been some very devastating fire issues, Hawaii, LA, all through California, Oregon, and more specifically Spokane, the Elk and the Cheney communities. And we have to anticipate that can happen to our community. I've had a chance to talk to Lisa, and I've kind of resolved a couple of these other things that I was going to bring up as well, but I would like I've used my time up, and I know we have others that wanted to speak as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming. All right, next up, we have Lisa Willickson.
Thank you. My name is Lisa, and I'm in from the same Bella Lago community. And we've been trying to address with the developer how he's working. He's not communicating well with us. We feel like we've spoke with Dan Dunn this fall, and then everything just seems to be very quiet. And we're trying to figure out how do we work with you, the city council, to make sure that Liberty Lake stays a safe and family-friendly and thinking about the ecology while we are doing development through our neighborhood. Our area has no fencing, part of our HOA, and everything's supposed to be left with green space. So you just see a little bit right around the homes and the rest is left natural. And that doesn't appear to be what we think the developer has in mind. And the reason for this is we have elk migration that goes through every morning. It comes through about midnight and then comes back at about 4:30 in the morning. Then it goes down to the golf course and gets water and comes back. And we're concerned about that 30 to 40 elk that migrate every single night throughout the winter back and forth, along with all the deer and the turkeys and the amount of wildlife there is through there, that we're trying to make sure that they have access and are thought of along with the fire mitigations, our schools, our water, and the road. It is, we know that there just needs to be more infrastructure. That road feeds our county park where they have, all of the camping and the motorhomes. You watch them coming up the road. They all go over the divider. Well, there's no way those campers are going to get out safely on a Saturday in August when that place is full while fire trucks are trying to come up. There will be no safe access back and forth. And there's the off-road vehicle park right up there and all the horse trailer parking that's up there. We have some great community areas available, and we have Zephyr Lodge, which does weddings of 400. You get all of that filled up in a summer afternoon, and we are waiting to have another disaster like Pacific Palisades, like Malibu, like Boulder, Colorado, where people cannot get out and you end up with cars parked and burned and people walking and running to try to get out. And we're just asking that you, before you allow these large developments, that you think about the road and the access, and that we get the right infrastructure first, so that we ensure that we stay a safe community and not a community whose name is repeated at their cities, like I'm repeating all these city names to you. We don't want to be one of those cities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, Mike McDonald. I didn't put all you guys with the same topic on it together on purpose, but that's how it's
That's okay,
going.
that's okay. Mike
Welcome.
McDonald, I live up on Bella Lago as well. And they've talked a lot about the road and the fire issues. I was one of the first owners up there, and we have a lot of personal ownership to that place because we went through a developer going belly up, and bought by the bank, and it was overrun with weeds and thorn bushes and people dumping mattresses and tires, and I hauled all those to the dump, and calling the police for drug deals and people having bonfires up there. So we got together, we put a gate in, we landscaped all the stuff just with the homeowners, no developer. And so we have a lot of personal ownership of that place. But one of my frustrations that would be nice to have the city council help us with is a lot of this goes on behind the scenes. This developer has had a lot of discussion with the sewer and water district about access up there, about doing a land swap to be able to use a parcel that they want to put a water tower theoretically in the future through. And then that fell through, and we just hear all this hearsay. So then he's going to go through our development, and technically where he's going to develop it should be part of our HOA. But he's assuming he's going to have his own HOA and have access to our property. He's not discussed with us about any of like the access to our property, if he's gonna have his own separate development, separate HOA. But use our road, so it just seems like there should be a little bit more discussion before anything gets approved. I know we have a hearing coming up, but just to make sure that you guys are aware of some of the issues ahead of time and kind of the personal investment we have in this development. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Lynn Atkins.
Okay, Lynn Atkins, good evening, council. I am a resident of Liberty Lake. The last few council meetings has me thinking about the importance of data-driven decision-making. We just finished the 2025 satisfaction survey, and I think it's safe to say that getting 226 responses out of 3,200 surveys was disappointing, and that's a response rate of about 7%. That being said, I agree with the comments made by council that even with that low a return of 226 responses, it does provide a slice of information. I also agree with the comments made by council that the survey should not be the only information that is applied to decision-making, especially when it comes to the budget. On the survey, many of the questions were phrased, "How do you feel?" And while feelings are important for taking the temperature of a community, fact-based data should be a primary driver when it comes to financial decision-making. Data-driven budgeting empowers cities to make evidence-based decisions. It takes you from balancing the books to strategically identifying what the priorities for dollars should be. Part of that data should include evidence of effectiveness, and that's something that we see on a regular basis from our county fire department. In reviewing the budget reports of other cities, I saw more of this evidence-based effectiveness. Another piece is the needs assessment. What data is being collected to demonstrate unmet needs for services? Who can we partner with to learn more? For example, the condition of our streets, our public buildings, our parks, and yes, the library. Are we providing adequate service levels? Using this kind of information helps plan for the future of our city, a city on a very steep growth curve. Are we ready for it? Some of these things are being done, and I thank you. And some of them are in their infancy, and some have yet to be developed. But adopting data-driven budgeting requires a shift in technology and mindset. Thank you so much for your time. Please invest in data infrastructure. Placer AI is a good example of that for economic strategy. But encourage your department heads to come up with what they need to make good decisions and present to you evidence of their effectiveness and identifying the community needs. And engage in the community in the data collection and the prioritization. Empower your community engagement committee to create more opportunities for this. And finally, analyze the information, not just to identify the current needs, but also to prepare for our future growth. I thank you for your time and your consideration this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have James Mortimer. Real quick before you start, Kyle, can I get promoted to panelist, please? Thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm James. I'm also from the Bell Lago HOA, and I have similar concerns. Most importantly would be the safety due to the road. I think Dan might talk about, you wouldn't even build a road that's steep and windy anymore, to let alone have 30 residences or plus trying to go in and out that twisty, windy road with blind corners. And I also worry about my son, who's 12 years old, riding a bike, and the blind corners. And if we have that much traffic, it's just not going to be safe. I'll yield back my time. I'm sure more people will cover some more points. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last one we have tonight, in person, unless there's anybody else who'd like to add their name to the list. We have David Clay. And real quick before you start, just a reminder, if there's anybody online who'd like to make a citizen comment, just send a note to our meeting host in chat.
Hi, I'm David Clay. I live in the River District here in Liberty Lake. Tonight, I just want to follow up with the council on the secondhand smoke workshop. As I read through tonight's agenda and the draft housing and community element proposal and the projected growth of Liberty Lake, the 22,000 people in such a small space. I could only wonder, you know, when we talk about health and safety, especially secondhand smoke, and as you increase cottages, tiny homes, cottage villages and things like that, decrease the lot size, which were already at almost zero lot line, and you pack in people. I really want to encourage the council to think about, you know, health and safety. We talk about, you know, community service and goals and policies. The number one is enhance the quality of life for all City of Liberty Lake residents. And you mentioned addressing city residents' basic human needs, including food, clothing, shelter, primary health care, transportation, and protection, abuse. How about the right to breathe clean air? Where you live, as you increase the amount of housing here in Liberty Lake, everybody is gonna start getting closer and closer together. Right now, I'm waiting for, as a follow-up to the workshop, the American Cancer Society reached out to me and asked who they should address a letter to. They're gonna send you a letter supporting that case. I've also reached out to Michael Baumgartner and asked what they can do from his level, you know, to help out. And what's ironic is his liaison lives right here in Spokane, also addressed the same issue. And after the workshop, the last time with the read ahead, I had 5 people reach out to me and thank me for bringing this up. 3 by email, 2 by phone call. They're going through issues right now that 2 live in apartments. They have no recourse to address this because it's up to the management people of how they enforce it. So just imagine if you're living in an apartment building and you have a lease and your neighbor right on the other side of the wall smoking marijuana or smoking tobacco, and like you and I have breathing issues. I just got back. I've been gone, so it's good to see you all again. I had sinus surgery so I could breathe normal again. So, but if you have those kind of issues and you have no recourse, I just urge you as Liberty Lake starts increasing in size and people, please take into consideration the health and safety issues along with the things here that you're addressing already, because that truly is a quality of life issue. Thank you.
Just a quick note, we do have a follow-up workshop next month.
Awesome. I'll be here.
Thank you. Okay, Rochelle, do we have anybody that had submitted anything by email? Okay, all right, so I guess we're good with citizen comments. Just a note that there will be a chance at the end of the meeting, if there's anybody else who would like to add any additional citizen comments. Just a side note, Sean Bouts is not here tonight. We do have somebody standing in for him online. So we do have some representation. Next up, we have announcements, proclamations, special presentations, which we will turn over to City Administrator Mark McAvoy for the program profile and legislative governance.
All right, Lee, there should be a slide deck in there on this one. And as Lee is queuing that up, I'll just remind the council, this is something that we've been walking you through at every council meeting to give you a sense of how, from a budgeting perspective, we are not only aligning the budget to the strategic priorities, but we're also allocating resources to achieve certain results with specific measures. We just had a comment about evidence-based performance program and budgeting and strategic policy making. This is one of the things that we've implemented that will help us along that journey. And so, Lee, if you can go to the next slide. This particular program is called Legislative Governance, and it is exclusively the meetings of the city council, whether that is in this regular meeting, any special called or any committee meetings that the council may create. And so that is what this program is designed to do. And if you can see the resources there, and I'll explain why this looks a little bit different than some of the other ones. The full-time equivalent dedication to this program is 8.05. Each council member, although your salary is low with the stipend that you receive, you're taking up a full-time equivalent position in the budget. So there are 7 council positions in this 8, and then you have other staff members plus the mayor that are allocated to this program to make sure the meetings are running smoothly and effectively. The agendas get out, the minutes get out, all of that stuff associated with the legislative governance program is built into that 8.05. And you can see then that the personnel costs and the non-personnel costs include all of that salary, including your individual stipends, and then all of the software that is required to manage agenda, to do all of the things that we're doing in this meeting and all of the things that you do to connect to the city when you're off-site. So all of that fits into that 215,000. And so this program is one of the wonkier ones when you look at cost per FTE, but that's what it is. When you look at the basic program attributes, this is a pretty flat demand, right? Nobody's out there demanding more governance per se, but it's flat. There is a mandate. The state statute requires that a non-charter code city have a city council. And so we're fulfilling that state mandate through your work here. And this is one of the ones that I wanted to help explain. We see this when we have our profiles. When we say less than 10% of the population is benefiting, what we're saying with that, and remember, this is a scoring category. What we're saying is that when the council is in session, less than 10% of the population is directly benefiting. That doesn't mean that 90% of the population doesn't benefit by the actions that council takes. It just means during the governance process, less than 10% of the people are directly benefiting. There is no cost recovery, and the city is the sole provider. So you get a sense of this. You remember some of these categories as we've talked through previous programs, and you see how those are laid out for legislative governance. Lee, if you go to the next slide. Now, if we take a look at this program and how it aligns with all of our strategic priorities, this is a community program. And so as we scored this, have assessed that there is some alignment with all of the community strategic priorities. And when you put all of that together, all of the basic program attributes and all of the strategic plan alignments, this is one of our more aligned programs. So we have these 4 quadrants that kind of give us a sense of where this fits on the curve of alignment with our strategic plan. So this is a more aligned program. It's in the 3rd quartile. Lee, if you can go to the next slide. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. We talk about results and measures. The result that you can see here is really that the city vision and strategic priorities are advanced through policymaking, which the council is responsible for, and funded through budget making, which the council is responsible for. And we're measuring that right now. And again, I want to remind the council that these are measures that we're using, but they're not written in stone for eternity. They can be changed. If we get input from you and the community that they want to see different measures or that the result should be different, of course, we're going to take that input and make some revisions. But right now, the measurements that we are using to prove that result are the community satisfaction survey on the trust score, which is question 19, and then the proportion of the annual budgeted expenditures that wind up in those top 2 quartiles, the most and more aligned. Again, right now, if you looked at that and what that percentage or that proportion is, it's 54%. So 54% of our budgeted expenditures for 2025 are allocated to the most and more aligned programs. So 46% of our budgeted expenditures are allocated to programs that are in those lower 2 quartiles. And so that's something that we may look at adjusting as we develop future budgets. But that, in a nutshell, is the legislative governance program, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Anybody?
All right, thank you.
No, with no questions from the audience. You can hold that till the citizen comments. Thank you. Okay, Next up, we have reports and inquiries. We'll start off with city council. Do we have any council reports or inquiries? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. We got a preview this week of the Ridgeline Regiment's marching band trailer, which the reason why that's important is because the city, as we all remember, donated a certain chunk of money to the marching band so they could go and get their trailer and go around all around the region and do what they do each fall and each spring. It is a beautiful trailer. If you haven't had the chance to see it, I was trying to email a picture, but my email's having some issues. So if you're friends with Eric Parker, who's the band director, you can go on his Facebook page. He's got a lot of great pictures of it. The very back of the trailer says title sponsor, City of Liberty Lake, which is what we requested. So that's nice to see. And then they will be doing a community event on August 15th. To recognize the city, Farside, Signs, Western Trailers, and some other donors who helped make this happen. So hopefully when we get more details on the event on August 15th, we can share them.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I saw the pictures and it's really
Yeah,
excited
very
for
nice.
it. All right, anybody else? Councilmember Ball.
Well, I was on the second shift Saturday at our inaugural farmers market this summer, and it wasn't terribly busy, but was kind of interesting and fun. I talked to 3 different parties, all brand new. They just moved here like within the last 2 months.
Did you give them the visitor's guide?
I gave them a bunch of stuff,
Good.
but 2 of them actually live just outside city limits. One was just right, squeaky on Barker, and the other was kind of around the lake. But one couple, and those both moved one from Mukilteo and one from Port. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. No, not Port Jan. I can't remember right now. But anyway, but the ones that live in the city limits came from New Mexico. So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're moving here.
All right, anybody else? Councilmember Dunn.
I just say that the STA CEO search continues, and interviews have been scheduled, and there is hope to have an announcement sometime in the month of June.
All right, any other council members? Go ahead.
I just
Councilmember
remembered Poolsbo.
Ball. Got it. All right. Hey, anybody else? All right, we'll jump into my report. So everybody must have shown up in the first couple hours because Councilmember Kennedy and I, and then Mark showed up for part of the morning shift as well. I haven't seen that busy of a farmer's market opening day in years, especially given thought I was getting up the next Saturday morning and facing rain and cold, and it ended up being the most beautiful day. And Mark Saba was there from our Community Engagement Commission, and Robin Beckett-all as well. It was crazy busy, and everybody was excited to be out, and lots of vendors. We do have some new collateral coming. We will get a better process with getting the box out there with our information, so we can hand it out, and we get more every week. So I encourage everybody to sign up for a shift or 2 or more over the summer. I purposely have not gone in and filled my name in on many to give everybody else a chance. I'll fill in where I can. So yeah, looking forward to the rest of the summer. It's going to be great. Just a reminder, the Liberty Lake Regional Park ribbon cutting is tomorrow at 11 a.m. So we're looking forward to that. It was closed almost all of summer last year to parking. So it's very hard to access the trail and the beach and everything. So I'm looking forward to just getting down there and seeing everything they've done, including a paved parking lot. That is always the biggest challenge down there, and the road improvements as well. We've got a meeting tomorrow, an update on the county hazard mitigation plan. I'm tentative for that, but I know Mark and Ben go to that, and I think PD attends as well. So we have good representation on that board. So at some point we'll get an update on those things. Coming up, we've got the Visit Spokane as a big event later I think it's next week. Can't keep track of my calendar day to day, but coming up, their event at one of the wineries. I also attended the Spokane Home Builders Politics on Tap a week or 2 ago. They had updates from most of the local state legislators on how the session went, some important bills that have gone through and whatnot. And so it was a good short event, and they each spoke for maybe 5 minutes, which is nice and succinct. It's always good to get out of those with a lot of information in a short period of time. And then I also had the pleasure of attending the Public Safety Awards last Thursday, put on by the Spokane Valley Chamber. Of course, we had Chief Simmons, where did he go? Is he out in the hall?
He's right on.
Was there with a couple of our officers and Detective Rocco, who was the recipient of the award this year for Liberty Lakes. It's always great to see the stats and hear the great collaboration between the different agencies. Spokane Valley Fire was there, Spokane District 8, I believe, for fire, and Spokane Valley PD, Spokane County. And so it's great to hear what they're all doing together, especially the Real-Time Response Center. So I wouldn't mind having somebody, hint, chief out there, come in and talk about that for a short period of time, and how we might be able to use that in the future. So I think that's it for me. City Administrator reports next.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and all of our visitors who are joining us in the chamber and online. I will start out the city administrator's report by going through the events and some reminders. We are in the midst of our 2025 City Academy. And so a couple of future sessions that will occur between now and the next council meeting are this coming Thursday, the 22nd of May, which will be a combination of Public Works and Parks and Recreation. So if you're interested in seeing how our Public Works Department operates or our Parks and Rec Department, come out for the 22nd. We're going to start at the Public Works Yard at 6 p.m. And then the following week, we're going to be at the Water Reclamation Facility for the Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. That is always the most popular session of all 8 sessions. So I would encourage you, even if you've not signed up for the whole academy, come and join us on the 29th at the Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Moving on, it's not coincidental that we put the Public Works session on Thursday, the 22nd, because we are in the midst of National Public Works Week. And this year's theme is people, purpose, and presence. And it's just a good opportunity to remind folks that we have a Public Works department of about 20 people. And in any municipality, ours included, besides police and fire, Public Works are the folks that keep everything running smoothly. Whether you know it or not, they are out 24/7, 365, whether it's maintaining roads, plowing streets, keeping stormwater infrastructure unclogged and running smoothly. All of that stuff happens because of the crews in Public Works. So we just want to use this opportunity to thank them again and to let everyone know that every day this week, we're going to be highlighting some operation of Public Works that you may not have known that they performed and giving you some insight into the individuals who are doing that work. So that'll go on through the 24th of May. A reminder, upcoming Memorial Day events. We've got a slate of Memorial Day events happening starting on May 23rd. We've got the Luminary Tribute display, which will be in Pavilion Park. And then Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., will be the Tribute Walk, Bike, and Run. And then, of course, on Monday, starting at 8 a.m., we've got the annual Memorial Day pancake breakfast out at Pavilion. All of these things are sponsored by the Centennial Rotary Club. So if you've not been to any of these events, I would encourage you to come join us on Memorial Day and the couple of days before that. And then finally, a reminder, on Monday, June 2nd, we will be having the town hall featuring Winter Glow over at the Trailhead Rotary Room beginning at 6 p.m. And if you want to have or want to participate in the discussion and want to provide some input regarding the future of Winter Glow, we encourage you to come out to that event. Before we move on to some of the other briefings, are there any questions on these events that I've reminded everyone about?
We're going to have public notice on this meeting on the 2nd, so more than 4 council members could arrive.
Yes, and Rochelle has that on her to-do list, and that will happen. Thanks for the reminder. Department reports. This is the second meeting of the month, and so the department reports have been distributed, and so now is council's opportunity to ask any of the department heads questions about that information if you have any, and so I would encourage you to do that.
We have several of our department heads online, so. Were there any questions? I know Councilmember Ball, you had some. Thank you for that. And I know Lisa got her answers out to everybody. Okay.
All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to Chief Simmons. I'll invite him up to the podium. He's going to provide you some information about the police accreditation process that is underway. And so with that, Chief, take it away.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, members of the council, Madam Mayor, and our community members that have joined us this evening. As I mentioned earlier, and for the community, we've officially started our move towards accreditation. With that came some promotions and some movements, and one of those promotions, earlier promotions, but some movement, was Lieutenant J.T. Isaac, who moved into the administrative lieutenant slot. And part of his duties is being the accreditation manager. So I am going to turn this over to Lieutenant Isaac.
Good evening, Councilwoman, Madam Mayor. Appreciate your guys' time. I got a lot of information here, but I'll try to get through it. I know you guys have a lot on the agenda tonight, so we can go ahead and start off with the first slide, please. Okay, so the accreditation background, I'm just going to kind of read off the slides. I do have some additional notes. So the accreditation is overseen by the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police, which is WASPIC, is what we're all know it as. It's created in 2007, is overseen by the Accreditation Committee, Accreditation Commission, and the Executive Board. The committee is responsible for maintaining the standards. The commission reviews accreditation, site reports, and makes recommendations to the Executive Board. The Executive Board then confers the accreditation. So I was at the WASPIC conference today and sat in through a seminar, learned a lot. And I learned today that there's 80 agencies that are accredited in Washington State. So we're actually looking forward to adding to that number as well. So the purpose of accreditation, next slide, please. One of the purposes of law enforcement accreditation is transparency. Going through the accreditation process professionalizes the law enforcement industry by providing review process for agencies to be certified as operating under best practices and standards. At its core, it's about ensuring professionalism, accountability, and consistency. So I'll break down the main goals. The first one is standardization of practices. So the accreditation ensures that law enforcement agencies follow nationally and regionally recognized standards, which include use of force policies, training and hiring practices, evidence handling, record keeping, community engagement protocols. The second one is improved accountability. Agencies are held to a higher level of scrutiny, which is going to help reduce misconduct, promote transparency, and build public trust. As we all know, that's a big deal right now. We take that very seriously. The third one being risk management. So because we're accredited, we're following best practices, which reduces liability and legal risk. The accreditation can also, again, reduce liability insurance costs, help defend against lawsuits. We like to say that it's not bulletproof. However, because we are following best practices and standards, it's very helpful. The fourth one would be professional development. So it encourages improvement through regular assessments, policy updates, staff training and development. The next one, we've got public confidence. So again, this is a really big one for us. As being accredited shows the public that the agency is committed to excellence and willing to be held accountable by outside evaluators. So those evaluators come in, they're volunteers across the state. A lot of them have 30 or more years of service within law enforcement. And we're basically turning what we have as an agency over to them to find common and point out the issues that we have as an agency that we need to fix to meet the best standards. Operational efficiency is the last one here. So agencies often improve internal communication, reduce redundant procedures, and boost overall effectiveness during the accreditation process. You know, what you learn and you see through the accreditation, next slide, please, is that when an agency doesn't have it, I guess, lack of better terms, doesn't have it together, it tends to lower morale because everybody's going different ways. Nobody knows what to do, right? So that'll be very helpful. So benefits of the accreditation, going off the list here. This is straight off the WASPIC website. So if anybody has any other further questions or want to learn more about it, WASPIC's a great website. You'll get all that information from. So it'll increase public confidence in the agency. It'll increase credibility, provide a systemized agency self-assessment. It's going to broaden perspectives. intensify administrative and operational effectiveness, ensure recruitment, selection, and promotion processes are fair and equitable, to strengthen understanding agency policies and procedures by agency personnel, improve agency morale and pride, which is what I just discussed, to decrease susceptibility in litigation and costly civil court settlements, to potentially reduce liability insurance costs, and to provide state and local recognition of professional competence. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the WASPIC accreditation program is to recognize the agencies operating under best practices and standards. The standards cover 18 major law enforcement areas, and there's a lot to this. 18 doesn't look like a lot, but there's a lot of things within those topics. So the number one is goals and objectives. The second one is role and authority. Third is use of force. Fourth is management, staffing, organization, utilization of personnel. The fifth is records management. The sixth is information technology. The seventh is unusual occurrences. Eighth is health and safety. Ninth is fiscal management. 10th is recruitment and selection. 11th is training. 12th is performance evaluations. 13 is code of conduct. 14 is internal affairs. 15 patrol function. 16 is investigative function. 17 is an evidence and property control function, and 18 is prisoner security. Each of these standards, like I said, are chapters. Within these chapters, there are several sections, each that require proofs of compliance. Is very, very time consuming. There are several proofs required for each chapter. Today, sitting in that conference, I learned there was just one or two sentences within a policy where an agency might be in violation because they're not following the best standards. So they're very particular. Next slide, please. So the process is going to be the interest and initiation. So initially we contact the association's director of professional services, who then assigned us a mentor to help us throughout the process. This guy has over 30 years of experience, retired law enforcement. And I've already been on I met up with him today and was on the phone with him last few weeks, and he's going to be a huge resource to us. The second one's going to be self-assessment. In the self-assessment phase, we're going to assess our ability to meet all WASPIC accreditation standards addressing major law enforcement areas as established by the association's professional services committee, which are the 18 chapters that we discussed earlier. We'll have a virtual file review. All of the filing standards of proofs will be placed into a virtual file, is what we call Power DMS. I'm going through that training right now. The benefit of having a Power DMS is it's not like the old way where they used to have to sit down and look at files and files and files of papers. It'll be cost effective for us because the mentors will be able to monitor that live through this Power DMS website. The fourth, we're going to have a site visit. So the site visit will have an assessment team, typically a group of volunteer assessors from the law enforcement agencies across the state, who will evaluate our agency's ability to meet WASPIC accreditation standards. They will review all of our files and policies and procedures, as well as documentation showing that we're operating under the direction of those policies and procedures. Assessors will also interview agency members to gather more information as they see fit, and the assessors will recommend where improvement can be made. They also have made mention that they will make visits occasionally to local businesses, talk to citizens out on the street, and just casual conversation and see how our agencies function and any recommendations they can give to the board. So they're very thorough. The Accreditation Commission review is going to be the fifth. So the Accreditation Commission review phase is the WASPIC Director of Professional Services, the Chief of the agency, and myself will appear before the Accreditation Commission. And so as I saw today, that was the process that I observed today. I saw several agencies going through what they were approved for. All the agencies got pushed through today, but myself and Chief would be down there and go through that with the board to see if we would get approved or not. Executive board and approval. So once it's all said and done, if it's approved, the board will vote in on it, and then we'll get our award and we'll be accredited for that 4 years. Next slide, please. We're getting to the last couple, I promise. So costs associated and time frame. So the application fee for the agencies is $100 is submitted along with the signed contract following the agency's successful completion of the mock assessment. The on-site assessment fees are related to the accreditation inspection process once assessors arrive at the agency and are invoiced after the on-site assessment and vary by department and availability of assessors. So we would be on the hook for having to pay for the assessors to come to reevaluate our agency. But with that being said, they will typically look locally and try to find assessors that are in the area to reduce those costs significantly. Once the contract is signed, WASPIC by agencies seeking initial accreditation will have 1 year to complete their on-site assessment. All current WASPIC accredited agencies are subject to accreditation every 4 years. Agencies will be notified upon their reaccreditation by the Director of Professional Services in the fall prior to the accreditation year. Equipment and building upgrades are required, evidence, storing, signage, et cetera. And this is true that the work never stops once you're accredited. So the ink's not even dried on the certificate, and we're already back into it, going through the next few years. So most of the expenses will be the building upgrades, as I mentioned, and anything in the future will be requested through our budget. With that said, the building upgrades mostly mean evidence. Okay, so we're already 50% complete with that, and that was already budgeted this year. So we're already on way ahead of the game on that. Last slide. And so what my role is going to be is going to be understanding and implementing, interpreting standards, preparing for the accreditation, training and support, continuously quality improvement, managing the accreditation process, communication and reporting. So, you know, acting under best practice, holding ourselves accountable, and being 100% transparent with everything, as I spoke to of tonight, is a huge move for the Liberty Lake Police Department and the city of Liberty Lake. It's going to be a heavy task for us. It's a lot of work. It's going to take all of us to do it. And I'm very confident that our team will be ready to tackle the task. So that's all I have for you. It's a lot, sorry.
Yeah, I'll just say good luck, having been through many ISO and medical audits, and I know Councilmember Dunn's been through much of that stuff over the years. I know what you're facing, and it's not going to be easy, but it will be well worth it in the end. Go ahead.
Question, has there been any other local agencies that have been subject to the accreditation?
So are you in the area? So yeah, we got the City of Spokane Valley, City of Spokane, Sheriff's Office, and that's it to my knowledge. We'd be next up. Yeah. Thanks. I take it back. I'm sorry. At EWU as well. Yeah. And Eastern actually went for the higher up. So they went for the ACLEA accreditation, which is, they call it the gold standard. So it's higher than the WASPIC. It's very difficult to obtain that level. Yeah.
Great. Go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
You said there was 80 departments that have this accreditation. Is that across the whole state?
Yes, statewide.
How many departments are there across the whole state? Do you know?
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Well, there's 281 cities,
Yeah.
so probably a good
Why
chunk of
wouldn't they
those.
be? Why wouldn't they want to do this? You know?
It's, well, a lot of it has to do with cost.
Mm.
When you're talking building upgrades, some cities that are very small can't afford a lot of the upgrades that are required for it. I believe that our agency has budgeted very well. And we're way ahead of the game with that, but there are agencies across the state that just can't afford it. And so that's the latest number I have today that WASPIC presented was 80. But there's several that are going through the process like us. We haven't given them our formal initiation because we haven't had our site visits yet. So there's probably several agencies like us that are getting ready to go through it, but just haven't made the announcement yet.
I have one more question on that one list of 18 things, unusual occurrences. What are they?
Just like they sound, just anything that's out of order, out of whack, unusual occurrences. I can, if you want to reach out, I can pull up that specific topic. There's, like I said, within those chapters, they're very scattered throughout.
Great. Well, thank you. Looking forward to some updates along the way. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, JT. And finally, I want to give council a quick update on the legislative session, more of a wrap up and very brief. As some of you may know, our governor has a line item veto authority. He did sign the budget bills today. There were some line item vetoes. Most of them, based on what was discussed at the press conference, sounded like they were minor. But we need to go and absorb and figure out what exactly did get vetoed. And so now, what happens for city staff is we shift from advocacy for our legislative agenda to an assessment of the impact of all of these new laws and how they're going to not only impact our operation, but how in some cases we have to implement new things or change the way we do certain things. And so between now and July 27th, when most of these things take effect, we're going to be assessing how they will impact us and what we need to do in response. And we will be using and leveraging our association memberships with planning association, with public works associations, with police associations to harness some of that horsepower to get a better understanding at an organizational level of what that looks like. And so my last question, and I'm not expecting an answer tonight, I want you to think about it. But looking forward to the 2026 legislative session, what are some things that either did not go through or that you would like to see prioritized, or that we just need to prioritize that are new things, new requirements, new needs, those kinds of things. Think about that. Because this period in between sessions is a really effective time to get with our legislators and make that case. And so we'll come back to that at a later time. If there are no questions about that, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Up next, we have the Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I got a couple of quick things for you. I'll start with the worst and go to the best. How about that? So don't forget backflow testing is due as it is every year. I know it's a pain. And I will tell you that if something is wrong, I learned this afternoon with personal information with my mother-in-law that prices have gone up dramatically for some of these devices, like the double check valves. So over $500 to replace one. Yeah, but it's because it's not working. And so bad stuff to get back into the water supply. So it's really unhappy, but that's what it was. So she had to replace hers. We are working with the city, happy to do that on UTV code amendments because we have some people that drive those around, and valve cans and manhole lids in problem areas. So thank you for that cooperation. And we will start the Kenny well drilling here in about sometime in the next month, so sometime in June. So that's going to be a new well. It'll be a 200-foot deep well. We've got a crew that was working, I think, in Montana that gave us a pretty low bid because they had the rigs and everything all in the neighborhood. They're parked and ready to go. So that'll be a pretty big project.
Where is that?
I knew you were going to ask, and I don't know exactly. It's in the Kenny area. I don't know exactly where Kenny well is. I can get back to you with that. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks. I'm glad I have help. And then the last thing is super happy to work with y'all on the May 29th City Academy. Although I'm not sure that people know what a water reclamation facility actually does, because that's a really bad name. I call it something else. I call it the sewage treatment plant, but I'll go with water reclamation facility. So anyway, that's all I had. Things are looking good. Looking forward to a good summer, and I'm glad the park is open.
Yes.
Fun.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
any questions for me?
Doesn't look like it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for being here. Okay, Parks and Art Commission. Nancy Hill, welcome.
Thank you. And I have slides and there they are. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Nancy Hill from the Parks and Arts Commission. So we're starting out on May 22nd, which is just in a couple days, with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan kickoff meeting. And the Parks and Arts Commission has been working closely with the SCJ Alliance to get some input on the Pavilion Park Playground Replacement Project. That was one of our goals for this year. And rather than us running one sideshow here against the Parks and Arts Master Plan, we decided to work with them. So as we have these kickoffs and these public meetings to get the public input on the 10-year plan, that will also use that as a tool to find out what they want to do in the shorter term on the Pavilion Park Playground Replacement Project, which is scheduled for an in-kind replacement next year. but we want to make sure that we want to replace in kind. There's already been some feedback from last year, if you recall, at Barefoot in the Park on having playground equipment suitable for the two age groups, which is 5 and up and then below 5, which we do not have at Pavilion Park now. So I'm excited that we're going to have the opportunity to get the feedback from the public, and that'll start on the 22nd from 4 to 6. It's an open house style meeting at Trailhead. And it's my understanding from the SCJ Alliance, there's going to be a station for children to provide input. So I'm really excited to see what they want as far as the playground replacement project. So we have that to look forward to, and we'll also be using some other events and opportunities throughout the summer season to gain additional input. Next slide, please. There we are. The call for qualifications for the artists for our two primary projects this year, which is our new community art category, which is the goat statue at Town Square, and then our ongoing Liberty Lake Together art, which this year is scheduled for the Kramer Mission Roundabout. We did do a call for qualifications, and we've received a very limited response. So we got some information and some help from the art community. We have rewritten the qualifications. We have separated them out into 2 different categories, and we've extended the deadline for artists to send that to us by the end of June. What that's going to mean, though, is probably these projects will not be completed until 2026. As we saw from our previous Liberty Lake Together art, we had that carryover for the Kramer Parkway sculpture, which is on progress now to be installed this season, probably in the early summer. So budgetary, we're going to have to understand that we're probably going to have carryover money because of the size of these projects. So meanwhile, we'll continue to hope that we get additional input from our artist community. We have some other channels we're reaching out to try to broaden the exposure and get more interest for these 2 really exciting projects. Next slide. On a more fun note, we have our new story walk stories up, and they're all seasonal. So these are starting to look summery, and the kids really enjoy those at Orchard Park and at Rocky Hill Park. We do have in our plan for this year to add an additional story walk, and you can see on the picture on the right, we've selected Country Vista by the ball fields, which is kind of between the 2 elementary schools. It's a very traveled pathway there, and we think it'll be an ideal place to add a story walk. We aren't going to really be able to get that started until fall because we worked with the Spokane Valley Tech School on the fabrication piece. They did not have time to do it this spring, but we hope to get on their fall schedule. It's a great opportunity for the kids, and every year they look at the plans from the previous projects and make adjustments that make it easier to say to change the story out or a better angle for kids to read. So it's a great opportunity for the students, and it's a wonderful partnership for the city. So you can look for that coming down the road later this year. Next slide. Other projects, if you're in Rocky Hill Park, we have our second Smarty board up. That's our communication board, identical, well, not quite identical to the one at Orchard Park. It's a little different because on the Rocky Hill one, we have a barn and a goat. So kids will know if they need to point to one of the tiles to communicate, they'll have that there. But it is right by the playground. Staff has done a great job on selecting the location for those. So if you're out and about, take a look. The Trailhead student art that we've had up for 1 year now, which is the entrance to the event Rotary Room event area of the Trailhead building. We just took those 6 pictures down. It's a 1-year rotation. We're working closely with the Ridgeline High School Art Department, and she is in the process of changing those pictures out. So the students from last year will get their art back, we'll get new art, and we'll have that on display for 1 year. So it's a great project. We reuse the frames, and the school is doing the matting and encouraging of the students. So I really like seeing that as we enter the building. And once we get a restaurant, we'll have a lot more folks walking through. So we'll be ready. the Never Forget Garden in Orchard Park. We did that in conjunction with the DAR. We had the electrical work done to get rid of the terrible plywood board. We now have an electrical box. So we're like, oh, now we need to wrap the box. So we're working with the DAR and some ideas, reviewing options, and that'll be a quick project that we should be able to get done this year. And that's my report. Any questions?
Thank you. Any
All right.
questions? We're good. Councilmember Kennedy.
Great report as always. When you say you reach out to artists and stuff, how far do we go looking for individuals?
Well, we've gotten some help from the Spokane Art District, and we're now going out like farther out towards Portland and Seattle and kind of in the Pacific Northwest. But you know, the internet is an amazing thing. Other people could see it as well. We have it posted on our city site, and we're really hoping to get more artists that have an interest in the project. We learned that we need to be a little bit better about explaining the scope of the project and making sure, you know, they understand exactly what we're looking for. So, yeah.
This particular commission is one I've always been excited about. And the reason being is I think back where Betty and I have been very fortunate to travel extensively around the United States. As we traveled, we've gone through a lot of cities. What's interesting when our memories go back to certain cities, it's to do with the art that we saw. Things that we go. So do you remember when we were traveling through the RV? We went through that town. We go, now what was that town? We relate it to the art, and then we can relate what the city was on it. So I think it's great what we're doing and what we'll be doing in the future.
Well, it really helps us to put our best foot forward, doesn't
Absolutely.
it?
Any other questions? No, thanks for
right.
all your hard
Thank you
work.
very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and last but not least for our reports are the Planning Commission. Bill Follier, welcome.
Council members, mayor, audience. It's been a minute since I've been asked to do this, so thanks for having me, Joe. Thank you. Really wasn't sure what to report, so I thought I'd just share the 944 slides that we've viewed the last two meetings. Slide one, please. So we have April 23rd, we had three workshops, sign code workshop, housing and community development, and co-living housing. Sorry if I'm reading off my sheet, but there's a lot of information to share and I don't want to get it wrong. So our community development director, Lisa Key, provided an overview of the purpose, status, and schedule for the sign code amendments, and then introduced the city's consultant, who happens to be Burke Consulting. They represented the work done so far with the sign code update. Some of the issues and potential strategies that have been identified include allowing businesses without street frontage to have meaningful signage by creating, excuse me, sign easement areas, as well as creating a master sign permit, which will allocate space for multiple businesses on the same parcel or development. Discussion followed amongst the staff and the commissioners regarding how far away A-frame signs should be allowed from the business they advertise. And other discussions included creating a long-term real estate sign for subdivisions and lasting over a year. And then also allowing larger wall signs as a percentage of the frontage of the building facade or for a business. And finally, we also discussed had a discussion regarding legislative directives that require changes to the city sign code. So a fair amount of this is what you're going to do, whether you like it or not. So, but we still talked about that fun stuff. The next workshop we talked about was the housing and community development update. Lisa gave a presentation on the proposed updates and a revision to the comp plan. The revisions included the addition of population projections for Kootenai County, which was something that we asked for, and a figure comparing the percentage of cost burden households in Liberty Lake and Spokane County. The next steps include a housing workshop with the city council in May, farmers market engagement, May 24th, virtual town hall meeting on housing in June or July. We also discussed legislative directives such as allowing duplex housing in R1 zones, allowing 2 ADUs per lot, and reducing off-street parking requirements as some of the most impactful legislative directives, and strategies on how to increase housing supply. And then finally, we talked about co-living housing amendment. So again, due to an update RCW, the city needs to make amendments to the development code to be in compliance with the required allowances for co-living housing. A definition for co-living housing needs to be added to the code. And additionally, co-living housing needs to be added to the zoning matrix as a limited use in all zones that allow for multifamily of at least 6 units. The Planning Commission reviewed the red lines for proposed amendments, and it'll come back for a public hearing in August. So what is co-living housing, you ask? I knew you'd ask. It is a residential development with sleeping units that are independently rented and lockable and provide living and sleeping space. Residents share kitchen facilities with other units in the building, also commonly referred to as a congregate living facilities, single room occupancy, rooming house, boarding house, and lodging house. So there you go. That was one meeting. Next meeting. 3 workshops. First one was on greenhouse gas priority actions and emission targets. The consultant on that project is Parametrics. In 2013, Washington State House Bill 1181 added a climate goal to the Growth Management Act. This legislation requires that planning communities, including Liberty Lake, complete a climate element as part of the 25 comp plan update. The climate element consists of 2 parts: greenhouse gas emissions reduction sub-element that requires the communities quantify their baseline emissions and include policies to decrease those emissions. And 2, the resilience sub-element that requires communities to analyze and plan for future climate vulnerabilities. Much of the discussion on that topic is somewhat legislative driven. However, a lot of our discussion revolved around what specifically can the city do to come up with different goals that is something that actually can be attainable, that the city has control of, the short version. So such as reducing emissions from buildings, energy use, fleet fuels, employee commutes, supply chain purchasing, and waste management. The next item was the climate vulnerability and risk assessment report. Again, Parametrics is a consultant on that. And that is a comprehensive evaluation of potential impacts of climate change on the region. This report provides a detailed understanding of various climate risks that the city may face in the coming decades, particularly drought, extreme heat, or increased precipitation, and the potential impacts associated with those risks. And then third workshop, which was very short, which we love, is the Planning Commission also reviewed the final red line version draft of the Housing and Community Services element for the 26 comp plan with no further changes noted. So as you can see, the Planning Commission's moving forward with purpose every month. The members come prepared and ready to engage, make suggestions, discuss, and finalize recommendations with urgency. None of that would be possible without the experience and recommendations from the staff, Lisa, Amy, Lance, and Kathy. In addition to the staff, the third-party consultants incorporate our suggested changes with ease and are critical to the success of this discussion. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, you guys have had a full plate. Thank you for all your hard work. Any questions
Twice a
before
month.
we lose them? Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Do we know if there, it seems like with the ADUs that was gonna, if an HOA had something in place, it could preclude ADUs from being placed within a housing development. Is that right?
Is that a better question for Lisa for our workshop?
I could answer it, but I'll let her.
Do you want to wait for the workshop on that, Lisa?
Oh, okay, we're gonna talk about, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, anybody else? Councilmember Dunn.
Hey, I thought I remember there was a climate resiliency committee or a group that was also considering a community-based group. Is the Planning Commission interactive with that group at all?
Yeah, this is the consultant group that's reached out to the different, help me with this one, what are we calling them? No, but they're reaching out to different stakeholders. There we go. That's the term, stakeholders. Within the community. So they're getting valuable feedback from not just us, but many within the community, which is great. Sorry, I forgot about that. They did. That was great, by the way. Yeah.
Thanks.
Super. Great. Any other questions? All right, thanks
Thank
for the update. Okay, that is it for reports and inquiries. We are on to general business consent agenda.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items 9A, B, C, and D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A through D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. On to, there are no action items, so we are up to workshop discussion. So we will turn over the ordinance review and action plan to Mark Beckboy.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is going to be a fairly short workshop. And before that, before I present the information that we've compiled for your consideration, I want to offer the committee members an opportunity to give a brief description of kind of the committee's activities and the timeline that was used, and then I can present kind of the containers that I want you to see. Would you like to do that? Is there someone that can give a brief history and what happened along the way so that we can set the stage for everybody listening?
Sure. Yeah. So we, I don't remember when we started meeting, but it was probably 6 to 9 months ago. It was a while ago. So it was Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Cargill, and the mayor and myself. Mark, I think you attended one of the meetings as well. So we were meeting every other Monday as available. We went through Kelsey was giving us all the different ordinances. We were going through them 10 at a time, just kind of triaging whether we thought they needed to be repealed, whether they needed to go to a department head to review, or whether it was something that we had recently done and we didn't feel like it needed to go to be looked at again, I guess. And so we had a list, which I think is something that hopefully we'll get to see as well. But we finished that, I think 3 weeks ago. We had our last session. And so I don't remember how many ordinances there are. It was in the high 200s, but we went through all of them, all the amendments and everything, and made our recommendations. And so I think that's what Mark is going to show us what the next steps are.
And
Yes.
Mark, can I just say real
Sure.
quick that part of the reason for this obviously is because some of our ordinances are from the very beginning of the city. So we're talking 20, 25 years ago that these ordinances were put together. And so they needed to be updated. They needed to be looked at. And some of the language in some of the ordinances was very, very old, talking about cassette tapes and all kinds of stuff.
So with that, Lee, if you can pull up, and it's essentially one slide, but if you can pull up that so we can have a visual to talk from. I'll start by saying that currently, or not currently, from incorporation to today, City Council has passed 420 plus ordinances. Now, some of those are repealing other ordinances, and so there are not 420 something ordinances in effect. But from the beginning of the city's incorporation to now, there have been over 400. And so with the work that Councilmember Kurtz described, we're approaching this by taking it in chunks. And Lee, if you can go to the next slide, just to give you a visual of what we're proposing as the action plan for the first 51 of these that are on the list that Councilmember Kurtz described. Based on the recommendation from the committee, essentially, we're going to propose or agree with the committee recommendation to repeal 10 of those ordinances. And so we're going to propose that we bring you batches of 3 beginning on June 3rd. So you're going to see 3 repeal ordinances starting on June 3rd until we get through these 10 and then work our way through the rest of the list. Right now we have 14 to revise. That's going to take a little bit longer of a process. And so we are going to work through the ones that the committee has recommended to revise, and staff has looked and said, yes, that needs some revision. To work through all of those, with a goal of getting all of those revised by December 16th. Not necessarily a 3 per, but as we get those revisions worked into an ordinance proposal, we would bring that before the council. And then right now, there are currently 10 pending further review. And what that means is the committee has reviewed them. They've either asked a question or made a recommendation, and staff is currently in the process of evaluating to make sure that that suggestion or recommended action can be done without other consequences or other things being broken per se. And so we're still working through those 10. And then 17 of those, there was no action recommended. So of that 51, you see the breakdown here. And so as we continue to work through the rest of those that the committee has reviewed, we would continue to propose to bring this type of action plan so that you can see. But if this is acceptable for the full council, based on the committee's recommendation, the staff's review of that, and now subsequent recommendation, we would propose to start bringing you these repeals on June 3rd and then revise the others on the schedule that we proposed. And so with that, I'll open up for any questions or further comment.
Is there any reason we can't do all 10 repeals at one time, or is that just a matter of time and getting them prepared?
It's time and capacity of preparation, yes.
Yeah, I just want to note, for the citizens and going, expanding on what Mayor Pro Tem Cargill said, we ran into, ordinances that had been, what it was in the ordinance had been replaced by something in the financial policy or the personnel manual. The committee is not going through and rewriting all of the city laws. That's not what it was about. It wasn't about, one small group taking control of everything. It was literally cleanup and things making sense. And we went through, there were little things like, oh, well, we don't have a clerk treasurer anymore. We have a clerk and we have a treasurer, and cleaning up positions and things like that. So those are just things that get ignored over the years. And we've been talking for several years about tackling this. And I want to thank the 3 council members who were involved with that and all the diligence you guys put into it. It's a lot of work. Any questions for Mark?
Just
Mayor
one
Pro
real
Tem.
quick question, Mark. Maybe this is a question for Sean or whoever's replacing Sean tonight. On the repeal of the ordinances, does that take a first and second read?
It does.
Okay. So it will take 2 meetings then per one
batch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unless we waive the rules.
Correct. Which council has the discretion to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Councilmember Ray Norman.
Just going to weigh in. Thank you very much for the committee. I remember all those hours putting those into place. But knowing what you guys are going through and cleaning them up is amazing. We're going to get through it probably half the time, considering we have gone from 24 employees all the way up to a little over 100.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark, for that.
Sure.
Next up, Lisa, stage is yours on the housing element workshop.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Lee, can you pull up my presentation, please? So I'm going to be talking with you about the housing element, and so we're waiting for Lee to pull it up. And Planning Commission has been working hard on this. I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps that we took to get to this. I'm going to try and keep it super brief. It's very data-rich development. Or chapter. So next slide, please. So the reason why we are focused right now, having completed the land capacity analysis, similar to the land capacity analysis, the housing element is absolutely foundational to comprehensive planning for the city. It's a basis for the evaluation of capacity of utilities in schools. It informs land use, essential to it's an essential input for transportation planning purposes. And we've got our network analysis underway right now. So this is a critical piece. It also informs the parks plan and our capital facilities plan. So, I mean, it's really, this is the next logical piece that we have to get done. And this is one of the heavier lifts in the comprehensive plan, by the way. Next slide, please. So the contents, there's an introduction, goals and policies, which are a required element. One of the things that we did is we had a separate element for community services, not a required element, but it made sense as we were looking at housing for all to combine these two chapters in terms of how we're going to actually be able to deliver the housing for those that are in the lower end of the spectrum or that need supportive housing, et cetera. So we integrated the two chapters. We are required to do the residential land capacity analysis, and so that was was foundational. The legislation has also required us to look at housing affordability and racially disparate, and doing a racially disparate impacts assessment requirement of HB. And finally, we had to look at the strategies for increasing housing availability and affordability, removing the barriers to housing. And you'll see in the chapter at the very end of it, we have housing implementation strategies, which I also put on your desk. And this is important because this is all the code changes that we're required to do or that we're proposing to do to reduce those barriers. Next slide, please. So first, the housing needs and land capacity. Next slide. As you know, the regression analysis that we did looking at our growth rates and looking at what OFM rates are for the city, we're looking at a projected population of about 22,000 during this planning period. Next slide, please. And as part of the land capacity analysis, we looked at what projected housing needs are. Now it's at 5,300 units over the next 20 some odd years, but it's measured from 2020 through 2046. So the first thing I want to say is that we've already built about 1,000 of those units since 2020. So we're on our way in this process. This projected housing need is basically the output of a housing analysis tool that was put out by Commerce for us to be able to take population and projected housing and figure out what the needs are. Now, one of the things I have to say is that when we look at this projected housing need, 60% of that is based upon projected growth. 40% of that is addressing cost-burdened households, and homeless population to catch up because we're behind in the affordability of our housing. And not just the city of Liberty Lake, not just Spokane County, but the state of Washington and actually the United States as a whole. Next slide, please. So what we had to do is we had to demonstrate that we had the capacity to provide for the housing for various income levels. This is basically a summary of the assumed affordability for by housing type. So detached single-family homes and townhomes are going to serve populations that are between 80 and 100% of the area median income. Just to give you a sense about it, the Spokane County's area median income for a family of 4 is $94,000. Walk-up apartments, condos, and accessory dwelling units are serving those that are 0 to 80% of the population. Next slide, please. So one of the good news is that we have the majority of these housing units are already what we call entitled. They've already been approved through a preliminary or final subdivision plat or through a binding site plan. So a majority of these are already pipeline housing units that they're going to be built over time. Most of our developers do phased developments. They build enough units that they can sell in a given year, and every year they're platting more. Next slide, please. So when we take a look at the housing need versus the capacity we have available in the city, next slide, please. we basically have more than enough to meet the housing demand. And that was the mathematical exercise that the land capacity analysis was intended to prove. We don't need to expand our urban growth area or in order to meet our housing demand for the next planning period. Next slide, please. The next thing that we had to look at was racially disparate impact analysis. Again, this was also required by House Bill 1220 in 2021. Next slide, please. So first of all, basically, prior to 1968, many subdivisions in the country had basically racial restrictions in their CC&Rs. Fortunately for the city of Liberty Lake, because most of our subdivisions didn't occur until after the 1970s, so you look at the map that's put out by Commerce, we don't have any properties that have those racially restrictive covenants. So that's a good thing. Next slide, please. Regarding race and ethnicity, Liberty Lake is less diverse than Spokane County, and the Black, Indigenous, and people of color or BIPOC households within the city of Liberty Lake make up 7% of our households, as compared to Spokane County, where that's 16% of the population. As you can see from this map, Liberty Lake has no significant concentrations in any one location of the BIPOC households. Next slide, please. We also looked at the cost burden households by race and ethnicity. Using HUD data, the latest data that we could get was from 2021. Next slide, please. Interestingly enough, when we looked at these, we found that Liberty Lake was less diverse in 2023 than in 2018. White households in Liberty Lake are more likely to be cost burdened. Liberty Lake rental housing shortages are both at the high and the low ends of the market. Interesting. Displacement risk is generally low. Probably the one area that we should be concerned about is the mobile home subdivision south of Mission Avenue in the River District. Also, the affordability of housing stock and availability of rental housing represent the most significant housing barriers. So just looking at what we can do to reduce barriers to affordability is a big thing. And again, we do have a pretty significant pipeline of rental housing that will also help to bring the cost down. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we also had to then begin to look at reducing barriers to availability and affordability. The city's existing development regulations, first of all, provide for a variety of mixed use, middle housing, and other medium density options that serve as the basis for a lot of Commerce's recommendations. Some of you may not realize that even in the single family zone, we do allow townhouses, up to 4 townhouses, attached townhouses. Now they are on single, they are 0 lot line developments. But again, the form of it is very similar to really a fourplex. Our planning commission really thoughtfully considered strategies to reduce potential barriers and basically recommended strategies summarized in the 2 tables at the end of the document, which again you'll find on your desks. I think these are code amendments that we're going to need to make, or that we're recommending to make. The first page is required strategies. These are mandated amendments to our development code. And if we don't make these changes as of December 31st of 2026, they preemptively go into effect under the Commerce's model housing rules. So that is something to keep in mind. The second half of it, or the second table in the report, looks at the recommended strategies. And many of these are things that we're already doing. We went through a full menu of recommended strategies that Commerce put out, and through them, we culled what was recommended, what made sense for Liberty Lake, where it wasn't required. So next slide, please. So we used, the Planning Commission used that as a basis to really update the goals and policies in the housing chapter. And as we go through these policies, you're going to see goals and policies, you're going to see that those that are a mandated change, or those that will support the mandated change that is included in the orange table, required amendments, are highlighted. It's intentional. While this looks like a nice polished document, this is a working draft, and we want to be transparent with the public as to those things that are being required by state legislation that we have no choice in. So next slide, please. So our first housing goal is to preserve the aesthetics of existing neighborhoods and support high quality new development with policies that encourage infill development within existing residential neighborhoods that is compatible with the surrounding structures and uses and is consistent with neighborhood design. To encourage neighborhood developments that protect the environment, provide usable open space, and exhibit exceptional quality and design. Maintain incentives to encourage cluster development while preserving open space and protecting critical areas. Maintaining architectural design guidelines that provide detailed human scale design while allowing flexibility to use a variety of building styles. Next slide, please. Under goal two is to enhance housing availability and affordability for all economic segments of the population. These first four policies all are required. Allow various types of suitable scale housing, including cottage style housing, duplexes, and other 2-unit housing configurations to be built within low density residential zones. Periodically review and update development requirements and design standards for accessory dwelling units. We also included manufactured homes in that category because one of the things, tiny homes are really a way to very cost effectively look at ADUs, and it's something that we should be at least considering. Periodically review and update residential parking standards. And when I say review and update, we have some significant requirements, and there were some significant requirements before this session, even more significant after this session. So you're going to be seeing quite a change to our parking requirements in residential zones. Supporting more affordable home ownership by streamlining the subdivision and condominium platting processes. And there's 2 separate pieces on that relate to unit lot subdivision and also allowing these ADUs to actually be simply subdivided through a very administrative process. And those are both some newer legislation. Next slide, please. Policy 5 is still under goal number 2, utilize objective design review processes to streamline permitting and approvals of residential development. We have that now. We have an administrative design review process. We can continue to have it as long as we are objective in our in our standards. Expand allowable housing options such as teeny homes, cottage clusters, and co-living developments in medium density residential and mixed use zoning districts to promote a variety of densities and housing types. Consider opportunities for mixed use development in the light industrial zone. Encourage medium and high density development by periodically reviewing and updating the standards for multifamily and mixed use developments. Next slide, please. And this goal just keeps going on, sorry. Continuing with goal number 2, promote the preservation of existing housing units that provide affordable options for households through loans, grants, and other programs. periodically assess the effects of policies and regulations on housing affordability and fair housing choice, and reduce regulatory barriers where necessary. Relax design and development standards for adaptive reuse to support the conversion of existing underutilized non-residential buildings into housing developments. And protect existing households from displacement. Next slide, please. The third goal under housing is accommodate supportive and emergency housing facilities and support housing for populations with special needs. So periodically review and update development and parking standards for emergency and supportive housing projects and facilities. Support initiatives proposed by affordable housing advocacy organizations. Enable a continuum of allowable housing options for special needs populations through periodic policy reviews. And promote housing development in areas that are accessible to public transportation for individuals with mobility challenges. Next slide, please. And again, with goal 3, support both rental and ownership forms of affordable housing in a variety of types and sizes. Support a range of housing types for retirees and seniors, including condominiums, assisted living, and independent living communities near essential services and transit. Enable emergency and supportive housing facilities to include related offices and provide on-site services when located in residential zones through revisions to zoning regulations. And consider introducing temporary or short-term rental programs as transitional housing options for specific groups. So that's goal 3. Next slide, please. And then community service goals. We had 2 goals in our community service chapter. One was to enhance the quality of life for all City of Liberty Lake residents. And goal 2 was to facilitate programs addressing the city residents' basic human needs, including food, clothing, shelter, primary health care, transportation, and protection from abuse. Next slide, please. So we had a number of policies that were related to these 2 goals. And as much as I've been trying to parse policies and pair them with goals, this was a hard one to do. So we just kept them separate. So the policies associated with those community service goals are to support human service agencies and not-for-profits specializing in emergency housing, transitional and supportive housing services, and housing subsidies for low-income residents to improve housing affordability. Support the expansion of public transit system to reduce transportation costs and improve access to essential services. Foster strong community school relations by minimizing travel distances for education and facilitate collaboration between city staff and school staff. Enable nonprofits and human service providers to use public facilities for community meetings, childcare support, and events. Next slide, please. Support programs addressing human service needs with public and private resources, promoting programs provided by agencies and nonprofits for weatherproofing and housing rehabilitation assistance to senior citizens and lower income residents living in older housing stock. Support healthcare access for low-income, elderly, and disabled residents. Promote caregiver relief programs, including parenting, childcare, and elder care support. And plan for future needs through regular community trend analyses and stakeholder engagement. Whew. That's all the goals and policies. Next slide, please. So next steps. I'm looking to get hopefully a nod from City Council to put forward this as a working draft for purposes of, number 1, sharing with partner agencies. I need to get this out to Avista, to all our water and sewer purveyors, to emergency service providers, both fire and PD, and so that I can schedule some meetings in the next couple months related to their ability to serve these projections, what they need in terms of capital facilities in order to do that, if they can provide this service. So this is really an important next step in the planning process. We also need to have a working draft to push out for public engagement, big piece. we kicked off our engagement with this on last Thursday, playing Housing Monopoly with the City Academy folks. We'll be doing that again at Farmers Market this week. We do want to plan for a housing open house. But we're thinking, because we're very jammed up with engagement on a number of different levels, we're actually thinking that that might make some sense to just push the information out there through Farmers Market, Barefoot, et cetera, on our website, and maybe plan for a housing open house September, or because summer's just a terrible time to engage people. And I think this is a really important piece for people to know what's coming. And also, I'd like to be able to submit this draft to Washington Department of Commerce to get their feedback. We did that with the LCA. We got some feedback from them. There were a few changes to it. One of the things, and this is very irksome, we did all that work to get the emergency housing done ahead, so we didn't have to do a land capacity analysis for emergency housing. And they're like, oh no, we changed our guidance. Now you have to do it. So we updated it anyhow. It all good. We wouldn't have had capacity if we hadn't made the changes that we made anyhow. So that's all good.
Are there any objections from the council for Lisa moving ahead with the next steps?
Any comments, any feedback on this? It's been a heavy lift. And as you heard from Phil, our planning commission is doing a yeoman's effort to get through this comprehensive plan. It's a lot to ask of volunteers, and they're just doing an amazing job.
Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
I just recognize the effort at hand, as you've observed for the planning commission. And I really appreciate the call to action for visibility and communication. Change is afoot, and it's really important, I think, that we try and get this introduced to the community in different ways. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Alrighty.
So, Councilmember Van Orman.
Yes, I had one question.
Sure.
Looking at all of the allocations that were done for Washington State, especially for Spokane County, I'm noticing that Liberty Lake is sitting at 66.8% of needing to do the housing and take it from what we're currently at in 23, 13,150 to 21,924.
The thing is that we expected that.
did.
Our own population projections pointed us to the 22,000. Again, when we do the analysis of what we have just in terms of pipeline for housing, when I talk about pipeline, it's all those entitled homes. We're well on our way. And as I said, we've had nearly 1,000 units added just since 2020 census. So it's a function of the way the community is actually growing that we're seeing so much.
I appreciate all of the information that you gave out, meaning where, the apartment complexes are going in, when, where. I think that's going to be very beneficial for the community. So we can get ready to fulfill what you have already started into place.
Absolutely. And the one other thing that I will say, and I know that the community has great concerns about transportation. That's why we needed to get this done, because our next big push is the transportation network analysis, which, oh, by the way, just unsolicited plug, we do have a virtual open house on June 12th. And from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And we'll be able to give you kind of the initial analysis that we're seeing just for the existing, and we are beginning to the existing modeling. And we will be looking to next steps and seeking some public input on that. But it's all very interrelated.
Correct. Thank you.
Couple questions on the off-street parking. So it's one space, right, per house, or?
Yeah, so it's one space per house, but for certain types of housing, this is the newest, for certain types of housing that's on a high performance transit route, we can't require any. I understand. It's mandates.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And so, but it's only for a specific, the lower end, this, permanent and supportive housing, emergency housing, those sorts of things. So there, but yes, we have, it's different for different levels, of how, different types of housing. But yeah, we're gonna see some pretty big reductions in what we are requiring as, for parking.
Okay. And then my other question is on these, cottage clusters or whatever. What's the definition of a cottage?
So there actually is a definition in the RCWs related to cottage housing.
Mhm.
And it is, they're smaller houses typically clustered around open space. 20% open space is, they have some standards. They actually have a model ordinance for this.
Mhm, mhm.
We allow cottage housing in our development code in the matrix. We just have standards for it. One of the things we knew we had to fix anyhow. But there is good guidance on it. It's actually, you've seen over in Rocky Hill, I think you see a little bit of that, and you're gonna see some more of it in Trutina. Some planned cottage housing coming forward. So it's there, and we can
Oh,
get
yeah.
there with our current development code, but it's not explicit, and the design standards are not explicit. It takes some interpretation.
Well, yeah, because technically I live in one. They called it a cottage, but to me, it's just a one-level house, and I don't know. I don't understand what defines a cottage.
Well, so we will have more definition, we will have more standards in the new development code.
All right.
Go ahead, Councilmember
Oh,
Kennedy.
thank you, Lisa. It was always very detailed and very informative. Question I have is regards to ADUs. I get more inquiries at ADUs, I think, than anything else. I was at a group this morning of the coffee we eat together on Tuesdays, and lo and behold, the question comes up again, explaining what an ADU is. You've mentioned in the past that it takes a certain square feet in a property to be able to have an ADU. Do we have an estimated percentage of the amount of homes we have that would fall into that category?
So that's all got to change as part of our development code. We have to allow up to 2 ADUs in every zone that allows residential. And so they can be attached, they can be detached. We no longer can have, limit the size up to 1,000 feet. We can, above 1,000 feet, we can do it. We can no longer limit the square footage of the lot. However, we still can include the limitations that we have on building coverage. So we can have, so there are some sidebars that we can put into the development code to provide some protections.
It's interesting to see over the years how this has evolved. And ADU came up, it was a small structure to be there, and it's amazing how it's evolved into now two can be on a particular lot or something like that.
Yes.
And at least 1,000 square feet or more.
We don't have to allow it to be more than 1,000 square feet, but we can't limit it to less than 1,000 square feet, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Well, and setbacks and things still
Setbacks
apply as
still-
well, which can
setbacks
limit
still apply.
things.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So yes, it's just a matter of, we'll have to carefully craft it.
Yeah.
There are, we'll have to review it, in terms of like parking is another thing. One of the things that I think is interesting, and I'm going to share this since Liberty Lake Water and Sewer District is here, is that if the city was a water and sewer purveyor, we couldn't charge more than 50% of the impact fees or connection fees for an ADU. But that's in the legislation related to the Growth Management Act. So cities are regulated, but water and sewer districts are not. But just in terms of what we've seen coming down the pike, you probably need to be prepared for that change.
All right, you'll sleep well tonight. Go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
So, can an ADU be like a mother-in-law apartment in a house? Is that considered an ADU?
Yeah, so an accessory dwelling unit, whether attached or detached,
Right.
what defines it like as opposed to a he shed or a she shed.
Right.
The difference is that it has to have a full kitchen. So one of the things we've seen developers doing is putting in units that just don't have full kitchens. And so they don't count as ADUs. I know that's been a challenge for.
You mean
the
they
water and
don't
sewer-
count as ADUs? if
They don't count as ADUs because they don't have a full kitchen until perhaps the homeowner decides to put the kitchen appliances in.
Right.
Councilmember Dunn.
Linda, regarding ADU, is there a requirement for separate utility connection?
No, there's not.
Okay.
There is, again, with our partner agencies, I believe Liberty Lake Water and Sewer District does require a separate water and sewer connection. But in terms of, but that's not a requirement of our code. It's not a requirement of the RCWs.
All right, any other questions? Go ahead, Councilmember
Yeah, so
Spitzer.
going back to my question from earlier, Phil was talking about the co-living housing and then, of course, the ADUs. Are the HOAs that have policies in place that preclude these sorts of things, are those going to stand or not?
So this is what the legislation says. This is what, right now, if you have an existing CCNR, that can remain in force. However, new CCNRs cannot have that prohibition. What's interesting and what I predict will be a case to be litigated is whether or not when you add a new phase to your subdivision or you update your CCNRs, can you keep that in there? And I question whether that'll be one for the courts to decide.
Hopefully. All right, if there's no other questions, Lisa, it doesn't sound like there's any objections with moving forward with what you need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we are up to council comments. Does anybody have anything to add? Today? All right, we'll move ahead. Public hearings and appeals, we have none. We are up to resolution 02-048G. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 02048G, a resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending Resolution 02048F, passed by the City Council on February 7th, 2023, entitled A Resolution Adopting a Financial Management Policy for the City of Liberty Lake, Washington.
Okay, we have a motion for discussion.
Madam Mayor, I move resolution 0248G.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks for motion and a second. Kyle.
So a little bit of backstory. The second meeting in April, we brought a workshop to council for review for periodic updates to the city's financial management policies. We try to do this at the very least once every 3 years, usually more frequent than that. In our agenda bill here, we have various updates that we went through during that workshop. There was some discussion back and forth. And the decision in May was to move that to this meeting. And so I guess with that, I'll stand for any further discussion or questions on the material in the financial policies.
I always appreciate the red lines so we can jump to the different questions. So who's first? Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I'm going to make an alternate motion to table resolution 02048G, and I can explain why if we have a second.
Second.
I'll give it a second for discussion.
Okay, so I have no problem with anything in this financial policy update other than one issue that I think we need to address, and that is the monthly vehicle allowance policy. That is on page 31 of the proposal, on page 111 of the council agenda and packet that was sent out. I am not sure that we can justify at this moment in time such a large increase in the monthly vehicle allowance, a more than doubling of that, as well as the addition of a $200 a month for all of the city directors as well. if we were to proceed with tabling it, what I would hope could do is perhaps adjust those numbers a little bit and then bring it back for full approval. But that is my reason for bringing this up. I feel like that part for me, at least, is a poison pill. I agree with everything else in it. I don't want to see everything else go down. But I would hope that we could at least tweak that particular language on page 31 of the financial policy proposal, the red
I
lines.
guess my question is just for clarification, is there a reason we can't discuss it tonight?
No,
Okay.
there's not.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion on the table to table this ordinance to a future meeting. Is there any discussion on that? Councilmember Kurtz.
My only discussion would be the same question that you had. I think we could discuss that tonight and have the data perhaps from Mark about maybe what a reasonable ask would be.
All right, so I'll go ahead and take a vote on the motion if there's no further comments. Councilmember Kennedy?
Yeah, further comment on that. I'm sure we'd all agree is that anytime we have an employee use their own vehicle, we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that it's compensated for that. We've done this over a period of time. My concern with this is that in the past, we've always had documentation on all elected officials and employees of the travel that they do, and we still do that. My concern is now we've eliminated that and put this separate here. I'm not against having a flat dollar amount, but for me, it has to be justifiable. In the past, we always had it justifiable because we knew we had records on how much travel there was, so we could estimate what that was going to be.
If I may, Councilmember Kennedy, I think that's for we need to have the vote on whether or not we're going to table it and then I'll go right back to you to finish your comments, if you don't mind. So if there's no other comments on the tabling, I'll go ahead and take a vote on that. Make sure, Sean, who's filling in, I'm in line, right? Being able to go ahead and take that vote. No,
I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I'm not skipping over the dinosaurs, long story. All right, so those in favor of tabling resolution 02-2048G, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion fails. So we will go ahead and continue with discussion on the resolution.
Okay.
So I will jump back to Councilmember Kennedy to finish
Actually, I
his
think I
comments.
think all my
Okay,
comments.
all right, I just want to make sure I got you. Okay. Councilmember Pro Tem.
So, I should have, instead of voting to table or asking to table, I should have just asked for us to make an amendment here. And so I guess I don't have the right number is my problem. I don't know what the right number should be. I just feel like what we're asking for here is too high. And perhaps perhaps the reason why is maybe we need to get to this number, but maybe it needs to be more of an incremental process to get there. So I don't want to throw out a motion for a specific number when I don't know exactly the reasoning behind the 300 versus the 200. But I guess my question would be to Mark, why did we choose the $300 and the $200 numbers? Can you, or Kyle or
And
whoever?
when you're done, Mark, I'll jump in too.
Sure. So when you're looking at an allowance for whatever it is, in this case, we're talking about vehicle allowance, you're looking at the amount of travel that each category is doing. And so the proposal was made, and we believe these numbers are what they should be. When the proposal was made, it was made based on the quantity of travel that each of those categories are doing versus the other. And that's the reason for the levels.
So I did go back just after that came up and trying to keep in mind, it's not me, it's the position. So I went back over meetings this year and meetings last year, mostly the regular meetings, because every year the additional meetings, they change. But I try to take an average, and I was actually surprised at how high it came up. So at the current You have to remember that mileage rates have changed as well, reimbursement rates. But at the current reimbursement rate from the federal government and the miles that I came up with, should whoever's in this seat attend 80% of those meetings in person, it actually came up between 250 to 270, and didn't not include parking, which I do pay for certain events. So that's just kind of where mine fell, and that had nothing to do, because I wasn't in the discussion with the 300, so I thought, well, let's see where it really is. So I was shocked actually how high it came up. So that at least to accommodate the increase in the reimbursement rate since this was put in place is definitely something we should look at.
Right, and there's a couple of other situations to account for. So your average maintenance costs for a vehicle, including gas, things like that, is anywhere in depreciation, potential car payments is anywhere between, and it's a pretty wide gap, anywhere between $500 and $1,300 a month, depending on the type of vehicle that you drive. And in addition to that, we also factored in, if we're not going to provide a vehicle allowance, are we then going to provide a city vehicle for these individuals that they then have a vehicle that isn't already part of our fleet that one of our other city employees needs? That's a substantial upfront cost and ongoing maintenance. And so if you factor in, a 10-year life cycle for a vehicle, that life cycle maintenance is anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000 for that vehicle. And so working backwards from that, you understand that obviously the majority of that is private use, but we still have to account for these city employees having insurance at all times. That absolves the city of any liability should they get in an accident while in city business or any other potential outcomes. There's a variety of factors that we could potentially analyze to the point of paralysis. And the idea really was to simplify this process so that we aren't submitting daily, weekly, monthly reimbursement requests where potentially you have a low month that doesn't justify that allowance. And then all of a sudden we could potentially cherry pick a super busy month and like, hey, we spent $600 a month on our car and we need to be compensated as such. So really the idea was to streamline, simplify, kind of negate the need to purchase any additional city vehicles. And generally, I think if we analyze this for a period of 2 years, it might not be 300 or 200, but this is our best guess that we have to put forward.
Just one more question. Do we know, Mark or Kyle, what other cities our size are doing in this department? And what if it's a monthly stipend or a monthly vehicle allowance, what the numbers are for those cities?
There's no real standard out there. Some cities provide city vehicles, others provide some kind of allowance for certain types of certain level of employee. There's a hybrid of a combination of those things. There's really no standard. I don't know that we went out and did any benchmarking per se. We looked primarily at what the cost was to operate vehicles in the performance of duties, and then tried to set the level based on the amount based on that, considering these other factors that Kyle just mentioned with the administrative burden of doing the piecemeal reimbursement request and the capital and operating cost of a standalone city vehicle.
And there were 5 other, I think there were 5 others that we drew from, and usually it's included in the employment agreement. And so we don't have that included in any of our employment agreements. And so this would be more of a standardized process, but it was anywhere from 200 all the way up to 500 from what I remember. And I can disseminate that information.
Oh, go ahead.
I think somebody was ahead of me though.
Okay, I didn't see. Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
So I think one of the things I heard you say before and then heard you say just now is that part of this is not just the cost of the gas and the wear and tear on the car, but it's the cost of the administrative tasks to manage and process payments and sign those, like the reimbursements
Sure.
each month. So saving, mayor time, city administrator time,
Yes.
processing that, and then finance processing that, and then payroll processing that separately.
Yeah, so there are several hands that touch this. I don't want to overstate that burden,
Right.
but that burden does exist.
Yes, so just part of it is efficiency from a, the government
Yeah.
standpoint of it.
Yes.
And when I'm looking at $250, depending on the kind of car you drive,
Right.
you get your gas, it's about 3 tanks of gas a month, that we're talking about. So I guess I'm curious if 250 and 300 are not the number, and we're wanting to start with something different, does anybody have a suggestion?
No, I think, I know Councilmember Kennedy had his hand up and then Councilmember Dunn.
My thought goes back several years ago when Kyle was pretty much new with the city, is that we always had the program in the past, as we do now, that if you use your personal vehicle, you keep track of the mileage where you're going to, and then that is processed and you're paid to that. A lot of individuals, council members, something like that, would wait till like maybe quarterly and turn it in. So when Shane Brickner became mayor, that was the first time we went from keeping track of your mileage to where it went as a dollar amount. I think it was $140.
Correct, yep.
Something like that. But at the time, the question was, what was given is that, well, we don't have to spend all this time to do keeping the records and things of this sort here. Well, I can understand there's a savings there, but we realize we still going to do that with every other employee we have and also council members. So what was talked about at the time, I remember very well, is that, well, what we would do, we would go a year and see what that comes up to justify if it was 140 or to be increased. I'm still in favor of that. And I certainly would recommend is that what we do is to table this for 1 year, this particular part of that, and keep track of that, because now we have a true figure versus just grabbing a number. You know,
Councilmember Dunn, you were next.
I support the amounts suggested by staff on the basis of efficiency specifically. The ability to allow and enable staff members to travel to the places that are important for the performance of their job. I'd say in an effective and efficient way. And it still is significantly less than providing a car owned by the city for the purpose of that travel. So.
And I'm not arguing for any particular amount, just trying to provide data. I did just look up the federal mileage rate in 2020 versus 2025, and it's gone up 21.74%. And then keep in mind too, the 2020, there weren't a lot of meetings going on. So the baseline year, when all this was put together, when Shane was in office, I don't know how often he was actually going to in-person meetings, so much of it was online. So the baseline is a little bit different, and just throwing out some data for consideration. And then obviously mileage is great, but I know he added parking, like I mentioned, as part of that calculation, which can add up downtown at $20 a pop. Did you have your hand up, Councilmember Spencer?
Thank you, Mayor. Just so we're all on the same page here, we're just talking about the mayor and city administrator getting the 300 per month. And then upon approval, any department directors, and I think you alluded to previously that there will be some that will opt out of this. Does that sound accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'll point out also, if you already have a city vehicle assigned, you're not eligible for the allowance. So for example, Chief Simmons would not have a city vehicle and an allowance.
Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Van Orman, then Councilmember Ball.
Yeah, I had this conversation before, and of course I was in that position as well, and remember how many meetings going back and forth, and brand new car, and I in 4 years basically went ahead and put in a equivalent of 20,000 miles in a year. So understand where that would come from. And I understand at that particular time, and that was about 15 years ago, that Spokane County commissioners were getting $300 for a vehicle allowance. But then again, they had quite a bit more to travel.
And it's their
as well.
full-time job.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a full-time job. So I understand the having that stipend is really important. And I know the maintenance costs on your car are not cheap.
I drive a 14-year-old Subaru now. It's not that expensive.
But I would be comfortable more, probably between 2 and 250 range. And having that as an allowance for, at least for the mayor and for the city administrator.
Yes, and I'm not arguing either way. That's up to you guys. Councilmember Ball, you were next.
Oh, I was just curious, Mark, how many, other than police, how many employees have a city vehicle that they get to use all the time? I imagine the streets guys and.
Well, at the director level, so if you're asking organization wide.
Yeah, yeah.
Every employee that is out in the field doing some kind of task has the ability to do that with a city provided piece of equipment,
Mhm.
other than the department heads and the mayor. The chief of police has an assigned vehicle.
Right.
So we're only talking about the other department heads and the mayor.
Okay.
And the city administrator.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I just want to make clear, I am not opposed to the notion of just doing an allowance. I actually, if it were me running the city, that's what I would want to be in place as well, because it's the easiest thing to do. And I don't distrust our employees or the mayor or the city administrator. All I'm saying is that I think going from 140 to the 300, that more than 100% increase is what's giving me heartburn. So I would not be opposed to what Councilmember Van Orman was talking about. Maybe we started at 250, and we, as Councilmember Kennedy said, we see how it goes. And then a year from now, we can check back in and find out if it's doing what we intended it to do. But I think that would be a more fair process, more fair way to do it. To the mayor's point about mileage increasing, I mean, mileage is going to increase each and every year, obviously, and we're not going to be able to avoid that. If the increase since, I think you said 2020 or 2021.
2020 is when it was put in
Was like
place.
50%, we're still doing much more than 50% of an increase over that time. I'm going from 140 to 250. So I would support that as well. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Well, I don't want to limit our conversation, so.
Well,
I
I
can
mean,
wait.
well, if you want to, since we're on this topic, this piece of the resolution,
Okay,
it'd probably be appropriate
all right.
to put this piece of it to bed.
I will make a motion then to adjust policy 1335, the monthly vehicle allowance number for the mayor and the city administrator from 300 to 250. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of adjusting the stipend for mayor and city administrator from 300 to 250, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 5-2. All right, any other questions, comments on the rest of the document? All right, so not hearing any. Oh, go ahead.
Just one more quick, I don't have a motion to make. I want to make sure the council is okay with the $200 add for the directors as well on that vehicle allowance. Obviously, we didn't take that as part of the last vote, but they are two separate things in my mind.
Yep.
About whether, we add the $200 for each of the department heads.
And that's not an automatic.
Correct,
Yes.
per approval.
Yep. Are any concerns about that? Doesn't look like there's any comments. All right, so as per our usual, we do take citizen comments on resolutions and ordinances. So this being a resolution, I will call for any public comment just on this ordinance at this time. If anybody in the gallery here or online would like to make a public comment on resolution 02048G, please speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, do we have anybody online? No, okay, so not hearing any, we'll go ahead and take a vote. On the amend, okay. Okay, so we approve the amendment. Sean, help me out, follow my.
It was already on the floor to approve the entire
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think we're good to go.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and those in favor of approving 02048G as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-1. Okay, next up is an ordinance, second read, ordinance number 310. Rochelle?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 310, an ordinance establishing a capital investment advisory board, defining its purpose, membership, duties, and procedures, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, do we have a motion to move discussion for ordinance 310?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance number 310.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So we have open for discussion, ordinance number 310, establishing the Capital Investment Advisory Board. I'm sure there are comments, but Councilmember Kennedy first, then Councilmember Ball.
Well, I'll jump into this first. I'm not in favor of this. And the challenge is going to be, now that I've said that, certain people's minds have already snapped closed instead of actually looked into facts and figures. That I believe that in what we're looking at doing is duplicating the process that we already have within the city. I read this in detail, and what we would be doing is taking one individual from these different committees and put him in to look at this financial aspect of what's going on. What I look at is the qualifications. Do these individuals have the qualifications to be able to do that? What I also look at is that this committee that's going to be formed by these individuals is going to be really run by and informative from staff. And that's where they're going to get the information of which they're going to look at and say, that makes sense. And then we'll recommend that to the council. We already have that process. It's called staff doing the research and then bringing it to the council. That's our job. Okay. The other concern I have is when I look at, they would meet 3 times a year. Well, there's ongoing things all the time. If we have another committee, but we have to wait to get their response, that to me can slow up the system. And for that aspect, I'm uncomfortable about it. I just feel that where we've had these committees in the past have worked out very well. I just see that this one is anti-productive when we already have in process what works and works well.
Thank you. Councilmember Ball, you are next.
Well, yeah, I kind of have the same feelings as Councilmember Kennedy. I just they only meet 3 times a year, and these are people that are already members of these various commissions. It just seems like a lot of duplication of work, and I honestly don't see the point. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
It's been a while since we had the presentation. I think it was a couple meetings ago. But what I remember from that meeting was that part of the purpose was to engage the community in the process of
Yes.
capital improvements. And that it followed and lined up nicely with our Community Engagement Commission and the spirit of that work in government. So I don't know that I see adding another opportunity for citizens who are informed about the processes that we are doing in the city through the different various commissions that they're on. I don't see that as something that would slow up a system. I see that as the opportunity to engage residents in one more way in the process of running their government. And so I think that in the spirit of trying something different and trying something new, I think that we can try it and see if it is meaningful, if we are getting something different out of it than what we have had in the past. But I do appreciate city staff bringing this forward and trying to find different ways to engage citizens in the process of having decisions about their local government.
And if I can elaborate just a bit, just to remind the council, the reason that and whether it's 3 or some other number, we'll figure that out. The reason that it's that number is because this particular committee is being proposed to help validate and prioritize the development of the capital budget. So that only happens at a specific time during the year. And so they would be engaged for that particular time during the year. And so that's why the meeting schedule that's been proposed. You wouldn't be missing something. You would be engaging with that committee during the formation of the capital budget.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Dunn.
I reflect and resonate what Annie had to say regarding one more opportunity for our community to be able to participate in the decisions at hand. I can't say no to one more opportunity. I also appreciate the selection of participants from the different committees, existing standing committees within the city's government. So I believe that that perspective is one that we don't have any other representation of. No one body can combine understanding and participation from each one of those other committees. I'm in support of the objective.
Thank you. Excuse me. Anybody else? We haven't heard from council members Van Orman, Cargill, or Spencer. Councilmember Spencer.
I'm gonna speak against the ordinance. I feel like this is really just a function of the council, and feel like, you know, whether that requires us to do any additional meetings to take care of that, I think it really needs to take place here at the council level.
Thank you. Councilmember Van Orman.
And I too will be dissenting. I believe that this is the function of the city council.
Thank you. And any comments, Mayor Pro Tem?
I've gone back and forth on this. I really liked the idea at the beginning, but as I thought more about it, I kind of agree that to me, it's not really an issue of engaging. My problem with it is not really an issue of engaging citizens. I want to engage citizens. I want them to be involved. I want them to be part of the process. And in fact, I would hope that we could find as many ways as possible to do that. To me, it's adding another layer of, I don't want to call it bureaucracy, but it is adding another layer onto the process of how these projects come to the decision makers who sit on this dais. And, you know, whether it's me or future council members, I don't want there to be a situation where a future council member feels like they have to approve something that a commission or a board came up with simply because a commission or a board came up with it. And I would just feel like in the future, if this were to come to fruition, that future council members would feel like they don't have as much choice in and say in the process. I also feel like it may indirectly remove the ability of future council members or in future councils from actively engaging on this particular issue. Because if we have another board or commission that it's their responsibility to do so, and it's their responsibility to come up with a list of projects, then, you know, as a council member, that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility the message that it's being sent to me is my responsibility is to just simply sign off on what they came up with. And so for that reason, I'm not ready to support this as of yet. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've heard from everybody. Or does anybody would like to go a second time, or shall I move to citizen comments? All right, so just, sorry, Councilmember Kurtz.
I'm disappointed that it appears that this is not going to pass and that we tabled it tonight for that very purpose. But I think as we were talking earlier tonight about pieces of data and evidence-based practices, I think this is one other way, again, to have community members involved in the process and have different perspectives from people who we have appointed to serve on the various commissions and who have been appointed by their peers to help give us more information. And the vibe that I feel like I'm hearing tonight is more about control of the council over those things versus more engagement of the community. And I know that it doesn't matter what I'm saying at the moment because it just doesn't. But I just am disappointed that we continue to talk about community engagement and we are continuing to take the ability for our community to engage away from them.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I would just briefly respond that you can't take away something that never existed to begin with. And this commission, this board never existed to begin with. This was a new idea to try to establish more community engagement. And look, again, to me, the issue is not whether we're trying to engage the community. I want to engage the community. My concern is about the position it puts council members in going forward and whether it gives council members the best opportunity to approve and move forward the projects in the city in a responsible manner. And I would just respectfully say, there's nothing right now that stops our citizens from being part of this process. We talk about it at council meetings. We invite citizens to come and tell us what they think. I would even suggest we hold town hall meetings about it and engage the Community Engagement Commission. I'm not sure why the Community Engagement Commission couldn't do something like this, where the Community Engagement Commission could once a year or twice a year, or whenever we're doing the capital facilities plan, could hold town halls, could hold events to engage the community and to be part of it. I'm just not sure why we would need another board on top of that to do that same thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz.
I would just like to say that this is the exact same discussion we had when we were talking about bringing on the Community Engagement Commission. That we don't need another opportunity because residents already have that opportunity to engage. They can come to our meetings, they can do all of those things. There was great resistance in bringing on the Community Engagement Commission, and I'm happy to hear that we do have a reliance on the Community Engagement Commission because we did give the opportunity for that to occur. I wasn't suggesting that we've taken something away that we haven't given. I continue to be concerned that we don't give the opportunity.
Thank you. Councilmember Dunn.
This resonates for me with a conversation I had over the weekend, very related, in which the reason that people participate is because they've been asked. If you don't create a framework in which they can participate, they will not.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Councilmember Ball.
So here's a thought. Well, if the whole idea is to get, community engagement, I guess I don't understand why these are all members that are coming from existing commissions. I mean, it's one member designated by the Planning Commission, one member designated by Parks and Arts, et cetera, et cetera. Why not, if we're going to form a committee like this, have it be 5 people that aren't on anything right now?
I'll let Mark address that.
So the primary purpose of the advisory board is not on the engagement side, although they would be part of the evaluation of the information coming in through the engagement. The primary purpose of the advisory board as proposed is to, if you'll remember back to the presentation, the discussion that we had on March 25th when we talked about the capital investment strategy, and Ben has subsequently described, and Lisa described in part tonight, all of the incoming data that we will have for conditions of streets, sidewalks, parks, facilities, all of these different asset types. The purpose of the advisory board is to help staff provide a check, a independent check on the validity of that data as we use it to formulate the capital budget on an annual basis. Yes, there will be data coming in or input coming in from the community, which will be part of that analysis. But the primary purpose of the advisory board is to help staff validate all of that data, test it against assumptions, and then use it to build a proposed capital budget.
Councilmember Kurtz.
I'm curious about 2 things. One of them is I think that there's an opportunity by having people who are on different commissions help be a part of this process, because I think in that way there's an organic way for Mark Saba, if he's still here, somebody like a Mark Saba who's on different commissions, to talk to people in the community about what's going on and get additional thoughts and input. And so I don't want to feel like I'm standing on a hill by myself here, but I'm wondering if part of the issue is whether it will work, part of the issue is whether we should do it. I wonder if council members would be open to having a sunset clause in the ordinance so that perhaps we try it for a year or 2 years. And if it doesn't work, it sunsets, so that it isn't something that is established forever, but then it is something that we can try. City staff can again give us feedback on whether it works. We can see how the process works. And if it doesn't, it goes away.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you for all the comments tonight. I think it's a pretty good discussion. The challenge I see when we start another organization, another entity, they never go away. Not in government, they never go away. So the idea that we would look at this down the road is never going to happen. Because tonight we voted on allowances to certain individuals for their automobile. When that was first put across, part of the stipulation was that we would spend the next year keeping track of to see if it was justifiable. So we never followed through on that. We're not going to follow through on this either. On it. I agree that we have some outstanding volunteers in the community or the organizations we have. Community engagement especially, I think they can take this on, be able to give that information. I still have the hang up that we're going to have staff who is the experts here telling individuals, educating them who do not have the expertise to give feedback to staff who's already given them the information to turn around and give it to council. Somewhat redundant.
All right.
I called for the question.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion. Those in favor of moving to a vote, please say aye.
Please repeat the motion.
To call a question. So those in favor of moving to a vote with no further discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes 5-2. So we will go ahead. Before we go to the vote, however, I do have citizen comment opportunity. So if anybody in the audience would like to make a citizen comment, please step up to the podium. We already have your information, Lynn. So go ahead, up to 3 minutes and on this ordinance only. The timer, please put the timer in.
Thank you. So I would speak in favor of the commission, and the reasons why, part of it speaks directly to what I talked about this evening, which is driving data-driven decisions. And part of my ask was to engage the community in data collection and prioritization, and this speaks exactly to that. I also would like to point out that there is magic in cross-departmental and cross-commission people being on the same committee. They each bring their own set of knowledge and information to the table, which can improve what the information is that they will bring to you. And as for it being a responsibility of council and taking it away from you, no one is taking anything away from you. Someone is providing you with another tool with which you can make a data-driven decision. And I also would like to point out that on the survey, question number 19 spoke to the public's confidence in the council to make decisions. And I want you to know that your scores for the last 2 years have been in the low 40s. I think that this is an opportunity for you to try something different and to move forward. The way this city continues to grow, we cannot continue to operate the way we have been. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other citizen comments? David Clay. Oh, sorry. Can you, we've got David and Lynn on real quick before you, can you fill out one of these so we've got you by the door? Thanks. Go ahead.
David Clay, Liberty Lake. So I'd also like to add, I totally appreciate her first briefing and her comments now. But I'd also like to add, if you're using this approach and using citizen involvement as the crux or the impetus for doing it, that's the wrong answer, because I come here like many people, almost every meeting, as many as I can. Have any of you reached out to me to ask me what I think about the city? Is there a survey online I could have participated in? Because I didn't get it. But could I have gone online and volunteered to give you my input? You know I would. So if you're looking at it from a citizen standpoint, take a look at the process, because when's the last time you had a town hall to ask citizens what they actually think about living in Liberty Lake? Because that's an open dialogue. This forum here, other than the citizen 3-minute comment that you'll forget as soon as you walk out the door, that's the only avenue we have for input. There is no back and forth dialogue. And I know there's a process. Roger's Rules states the process for you running your council. But if you truly want citizen comments and community engagement, then actually do that, because I know we have a community engagement committee. Nobody's ever asked me, or do I even know who's on the community engagement every time? No. Do I know what they're working on? No. So maybe I would like to go back to her point. Look at doing things a little differently then. If you truly do want and you represent the citizens of Liberty Lake, how are you going to better involve the citizens of Liberty Lake? Because I truly am involved and I can't do much more than what I'm doing now, except to engage with many of you. I've emailed every single one of you. So it's not for the lack of trying, but it's got to be two ways. So I think that while I like the idea, I don't like the added bureaucracy and the duplicity of another commission. But maybe it can work if you involve the right people to do that and take that information and reciprocate it to the community. I like the idea of having a town hall for the Christmas lights, but it's got to be a town hall also to talk to the people, the community, how to better run the city. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Looks like we have one more citizen comment. If you just want to give that to Wendy on the end, you can just pass it over to me. It doesn't matter. I'll put that on there. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. My name is Rick Klingler, and thanks for allowing this engagement. I think it was a great discussion. I do have a few points of dissent with some of the comments regarding the citizens having the requisite skill set. I think that's underestimating the citizenry of this area. Highly trained, highly educated, highly competent. I think it's smart to engage subject matter experts with them so they understand exactly what's on the table. I don't think that detracts from it all. I definitely don't think that it detracts from the city council because ultimately the decision lands with you. So they're just going to give you an added layer of input that I think is vital for you to understand what the citizens want, how they want to be engaged with. So I think this is a no-brainer really, that you engage the citizens, you allow this committee to go forward, and you take the input from them, which I think you'll find valuable. I think it's a little pessimistic to say that once you have government in place, it never goes away. I think that that's a little bit of a negative position. I like the idea of a sunset clause, if that makes sense for this commission. And if not, well, even within the sunset, I think that you have some rules established around that stating, this is the reason why we would sunset it. And this is our criteria for whether that committee was effective and valuable or not. So, yeah, I appreciate the discussion, but as a citizen and somebody who would love to have input in those areas, the capital investments for my city, I definitely think that this is something you should reconsider.
Thank you very much. Anybody else here in the audience, or is there anybody online who'd like to comment on this ordinance? Nobody online. All right.
Can I make a motion? I know discussion is over, but can I make a motion?
Well, we are going to, I'm going to turn back to Sean. Glad you're here tonight. I'm going to go back to Sean because we had a call to the question to go to a vote. But now we've got somebody who wants to make a motion.
I believe that the vote would be in order.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you. Just like to check. That's our, who's filling in for Sean?
Yeah, but what did you say? In order or out of order?
In order.
In order.
Yeah, so we're going to the vote. Okay, so those in favor of approving ordinance number 310, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion fails 3-4. Okay, we have no emergency ordinances. Introduction of upcoming agenda items. You guys have the matrix on your table. I think we're up to date. So today's May 20th. So we had the ordinance review action plan, housing element update. For June 3rd, there are 4 on there, but I believe the hub, tip and lift and the TIP may be moving. Oh, there you are. Maybe moving, Kyle. So we're gonna leave it on there just in case, but those 2 may be moving. And then we have Winter Glow, which will be the day after the town hall. And I know Winter Glow has asked for an answer, I believe, by the end of that week. So there will be an action item for the council on the 3rd as to next steps. I'll ask Mark, I'll verify that, Mark. And then we've got the facilities master plan update from Ben. Mark, I'm gonna put you on the spot. The Winter Glow Board is looking for an answer by the end of that week of the town hall. Is that correct? Or the next, or a couple days later?
So they've requested a decision by June 16th. If you look at
Okay.
our meeting schedule, the only opportunity for that to occur is on the 3rd unless there's a special meeting.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so is there anything, I'm not gonna go through everything on here. Is there anything that anybody thinks we need to add that's not on a regular work plan, Chris?
Given tonight's vote, I do think it would be worth continuing a discussion on how to engage the public in the capital investment process. I don't know exactly what that looks like, or if we could have like a brainstorming session, or a workshop discussion. But I don't think we should just give up on it entirely. I think there was consensus that we should engage. It's just a matter of how we go about doing that. So I would hope that we could add that on their agenda, maybe sometime, I don't know,
End of June.
Yeah, late June, maybe, or July.
Okay. All right, when we have it, we'll take a look at the schedule again when we have our directors meeting tomorrow. Anybody else? Okay, that takes us to last opportunity for citizen comments. So if there's anybody else who'd like make any general citizen comments, we'll take it now. Anybody online? Anybody here? Okay, we have no executive session, so if there's no further business in front of the council, we will go ahead and adjourn. Rick, I know you had a question earlier. Did that question get answered?